Steve Kamensky, Technical Coordinator at Exity. Today, I'm going to be going over how to clean your transmission bell housing and prepare it for a new clutch installation. To perform this, you're going to need some parts cleaner. Some gloves are handy for the parts cleaner, a brush, a pack of grease, and of course some towels. The first thing we're going to want to do is remove the release bearing clutch fork as one piece. Just pull on it, it will snap off the pivot ball, and it is removed. Things we want to pay attention to is the pivot ball, the transmission quill, down the bell housing with the parts cleaner to remove all the old debris from the clutch disc. That the quill is thoroughly cleaned all around, make sure there's no ridges. Any ridges or grooves in the quill will cause the bearing to hang up. You want make sure that the pivot ball for the clutch fork is clean of all debris. This will ensure that when you install the clutch fork, it will have a nice smooth feel. These ones look like they're all good to go. Next, we want to remove the release bearing from the clutch fork. Remove the clip, and the bearing and the fork are separated. So if we're not reusing this bearing, we'll just go ahead and set this aside. When cleaning the clutch fork, you want to clean the pivot ball area, where the clutch fork and release bearing touch each other, and where the slave cylinder rod pushes on the clutch fork. Next, we'll want to clean the input shaft of the transmission with the brush. We just want to make sure that all the debris, there's no rust or anything in the splines that would cause the input shaft to hang up. Now that the bell housing has been cleaned, the quill is clean, the pivot ball is clean, we've reinstalled the clutch fork boot. Now we're ready to install the clutch, fork, and bearing. First, you'll want to put on a new pair of gloves. You want to do this with clean hands. You take your supplied pack of Exity grease and just put a very small amount on your finger. We're going to lightly spread it on the quill of the transmission. All you need is a very thin layer. You also want to put a thin layer of grease on the pivot ball for the fork. You'll also want to put a thin layer of grease on the fork where the bearing rides. Next, you want to affix the bearing to the clutch fork. This application uses a bearing retainer clip. So we want to put this on here and make sure it's snapped into the holes in the fork. Now the bearing is affixed to the fork. So we're going to reinstall the clutch fork back to the bell housing and slide it through the boot. Put the bearing on the quill of the transmission, slide it back, and hear a nice firm click once the fork is back onto the pivot ball, and you kind of want to give it a little back and forth motion to make sure that everything is moving freely and nicely and that nothing is loose. Looks good. So let's take and wipe off the excess grease around the quill. And you're set to go.